So these digital humans that are extremely smart could go and do anything. I really believe they're going to disrupt the entire world, the economy, how things are governed, and they're here now. They're actually PhD level, IQs of 120, 140, some people are saying 160 to 200, and now they can take action at PhD reasoning levels. Like that is insane. And the thing is, today is the worst that they'll ever be. You may want to start looking at building individual agents to protect people. It's going to be dangerous going out into the internet, into the metaverse, that theoretically I would need to have an AI agent by my side, helping and supporting me to protect me from fraud, to protect me from trying to manipulate me. Like, feel like right now we can definitely replicate ourselves to a high degree and put it into an AI, but there's something missing. Is it the soul? Is it consciousness? Is there something else there? Right now is one of the most incredible opportunities. We're going to have a digital renaissance, a physical renaissance, and see some of the most beautiful things happen, or a world that potentially is very dangerous and dystopian. Right now is the time to get yourself involved and stay in line to what you're actually here to do.
How do you see the best case scenario for us? Jonathan, brother, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming on the show. Excited for our conversation. Why don't you give a listener a quick intro of who you are and what you do in the world?
Yeah. Good to be here, brother. Good to be in Miami again, because I've been traveling a lot. A little background on myself is that, I like to call myself the digital frontiersman. So what does that mean? I obviously love the digital space. And I've had a lot of companies now, over 30 companies, had some exits, failed most of them. Most of the endeavors did fail. As much as I would love to have a better track record, at the end of the day, I think these failures were a great benefit, which led to some of my successes. Also, I've worked with, Fortune 500 companies. I've worked with the Secretary of Defense in Mexico. I did have 5 exits. I was also in a public company that, I ended up getting acquired by. I was leading the acquisition strategy with them. So I love doing things in technology, e-commerce. And again, most of it is digital. Hence, like, my playground is the digital playground, as much as I love being in the real world, because I love nature and everything. But, the digital realm is my realm. And, I'm just a builder. So I love to build. I'm a philosopher. I'm a futurist. And I'm just here to make humanity a better place.
Amazing. And how did you start all of that journey? What was your, what did you study in school? What was your main?
So when I was a kid, I was traveling a lot because my father was in big oil. He was like special operations for Texaco Chevron. So, I was born in Canada, went to New York, went to Miami, went to Argentina, was in Colombia for actually 7 years. Then came to Miami, I've lived in probably over 30 places down in South Florida. From there, moved a bunch of different places in small iterations. But, as a young kid, I always liked technology, right? When I was able to get, the first computer, then simultaneously, getting into video games. I was just a big fan. I was enthralled by the internet and what I could do on it. I just was you could call me a little, I was engineering and just trying all kinds of little things, even so much so I remember, if this was ninth grade, I had figured out how to get the Marshall Mathers LP 3 weeks before it was coming out. And it was going to be the most famous CD. And I couldn't believe I had stumbled upon it. I don't know where in the dark web or one of these, Napster. I don't know where exactly it was. And I stumbled upon it. I'm like, no way. I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. Let me sell this. Because I was already selling CDs with songs on it already. LimeWire, Napster, all these other different apps they had. And I was like, whoa, I have something that I don't think anyone has this right now. I'm like, I don't know how I got this, but let me go ahead and I'm going to make a CD of this thing. I'm going to bring it to school and I'm going to sell it. So my first tinge and my first little success, let's call it, was that I brought my whole entire book bag. I took out all my books and I filled it with these CDs. And then also, I even made, I went to Best Buy, bought a bunch of cases. I even came up with my own cover, which was, because the cover wasn't out, or I don't know what it was. It was definitely different. And I come up with a brand new cover for it. And put the songs on the other side that were probably all wrong, right, in the order that they were supposed to be in. And I took it to school and I sold every single one in no time. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? That was my first success, where also that also taught me that I don't have to work hourly, and I don't have to work hard to get a lot of money. I was like, whoa, this is cool. I really like this a lot. So much so too that it was so popular in school.
Yeah.
The next day, every kid had it. I guess the kids that, purchased it from me, they went and made copies. And then from the copies that they made, everyone had it. That even the principal came in and it's like, we know that people are selling CDs in the school now. You guys need to stock, because it was like a phenomenon. So I was like, whoa, I just created, I started something really cool.
Yeah.
If I had this, CD ahead of time, like obviously I didn't know that you're not allowed to do these things. And that was probably even before they were even saying, hey, you can't do it. It was so early.
Right.
I was like, whoa, this is cool. And that kind of told me like, whoa, I could do things that most people probably don't know about. And then it was like a new innovation in a way. And then simultaneously, I made some money doing it. And as a little kid, I'm like, I want to go buy more baseball cards.
Very cool, man. So you think travel, like exposing yourself to many environments, cultures and things, trained for you to see opportunities in a different way? Like you were kind of a street smart and you were like noticing things a lot more than other people, you think?
I mean, I would definitely say that travel opened me up also to like, have to figure out new things, and like also probably made me more social, like it definitely got me to be more of a people person, because like, I had friends, and all of a sudden, oh, we're going to another school now in another country. It wasn't even another city. It was like in another country. So it's like I was literally like going from one complete different culture into another. So it's like I had to figure things out. And I would definitely say that like it was definitely very beneficial to be in that new environment to figure things out. So it's like it made me kind of like think outside the box, and then also made me think globally. Like because I saw these different things, I didn't think in just my city. People are just born in their city, they stay in their city, and it's like you have a city mindset. For sure. Mine was more of a global, like, hey, there's Colombia out there, there's this. So it was like, that's why the internet was so interesting to me, because like I had access to talk to people that were not from just my school or from this place. I could talk to someone from like Korea, like I forgot the name of that app that was that you could talk. It was like QBC, SQC.
Oh yeah.
That one that
ICQ.
ICQ. Right. Yeah. It's like you go in there and talk to all these random people, and then like hopefully it's a girl on the other side. You don't know. So it was like so interesting to me to like explore the internet, and that's why the internet became such a fun thing for me. Yeah.
And so if you had to teach someone, let's say you have, I don't know if you were planning to have kids, to teach them that skill of seeing opportunities and think differently, how would you teach one? Like travel, is that, I mean, that's probably...
for sure. I mean, I do that by default. So I do want to have kids at that point in time. People are like, my family's all like, John, when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? And I'm like, I have a lot of kids already that I take care of, like people in my circles, whatever.
Sure.
But, one of the big things is my brother has a nephew. So like, I feel like I do a lot of things that I'd probably do with my own kids, and I expose him to artificial intelligence. I'm exposing them to outside ideas. If I had my own kids, I would definitely have them traveling a lot. And then I would not treat them like a kid. I'll treat them like they're, like an innovator, a creator.
Yeah.
You can do anything. So like that's a big component that if I did have a kid, I would be exposing them to the things that most parents may be scared to doing. Like getting them involved a little bit more with the AI stuff, and like let them go and get extremely creative. Some parents are probably scared to just let their kid go wild on there.
Yeah.
Me, I'd be more of a proponent for it.
Totally, man. Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't, when I was up until I was 21, I didn't really travel. I was just living in Belarus, like a normal, whatever, average lifestyle. I didn't really have opportunities to travel, but I also had this like drive to computers and innovation, and I don't know where I got that from, but definitely not from travel because I didn't have that. But it's cool to...
Is it possible that you also entered in? Because remember too, no matter where I was, the internet was also my spark of like being out there. So do you think that's where your spark potentially came from? Is like...
I did spend a lot of time like in front of the computer, but also not somehow playing video games wasn't my thing. Maybe because I would get dizzy playing like shooter games and things. So I wasn't a big fan of those types of games. So I would spend time more like with software. I would like download a bunch of torrent software and just play around with like free tools, like early stage of like Photoshop and other things. In America, it's not as common actually to find free like torrent software. Some people do it, it is, but back home it's 99.99% of everyone who uses any kind of software, it's free from torrent. People don't pay for it, but it actually liberates you to literally find any software cheaper or like it's the price is zero for any kind of software, and so you're open to trying as many things as possible. I think that gives you a lot of freedom to not be afraid like, oh, this software is too expensive, I can't afford it, or yeah.
I think that what I like about that, like I guess I got a taste of that when I was in Peru and Venezuela when my father was down there. We went at 3-4 month pairs, and I remember there's certain things I just couldn't buy because it was too expensive, right? Like, I used to get a little small mini money from my father on a weekly basis that he'll make us work our asses off like so hard, and then like all of a sudden I'm in Peru or Venezuela and there's this black market, and in this black market I could get all these crazy games that are too expensive and like mini software. So I saw it similar, and for me it's very interesting because then let's say in your case, you literally are now finding something that is just useful. Price does not matter.
That's right.
So potentially, maybe one thing that's, maybe not the free software, but maybe the $19.99 is better than the $200 one. Oh man, you like it better. And then people perceive the $200 one could be better, but realistically, because you're just using whatever is best, right? Because if you got to get for free, that's really cool.
Exactly. Cool. Man, I think AI is definitely the main kind of topic that I want to dive deeper into. Maybe mentioned for the listeners, whoever is watching, the collective project, that how you guys are contributing to the community, what you guys are doing, and so we can dive into the AI conversation that way.
Yeah. So the collective is a community. We have about 1,500 members all over the world. I would say like 170 would be like elite paying internal members. And what we did is like when AI really started to take shape, right? So like I really started figuring out about exponential technologies and AI, I don't know, 20 years ago. Ray Kurzweil was one of the ones that really introduced me into exponentials. And I was very obsessed. I like to call myself an exponential entrepreneur, right? Like, what does that mean? I'm like, I don't know, it sounds cool, but, I want to be one of those that could do a lot with a lot less time, and I ended up embodying that. Like, that's actually what I started doing in my company. So I believed it, and then it just started happening. But what was really cool is that, he had broke down a lot of concepts about how these things work. So I saw these things coming. And then in 2022, as you know, the November ChatGPT came out. I was already playing around with these GPTs, and, me and one of my buddies were like, whoa, GPT-1, like, what is this? This is crazy. This is going to do crazy things, but it was not as useful. When ChatGPT came out, it just let me know like, whoa, commercialization is coming. Like, this is crazy. It was one of those moments where it really made me rethink everything that I was doing.
For sure.
And I actually went to the Patagonian mountains with my family, and usually I don't go for that long. And I was part of the public company that I was running one of the companies for and doing the acquisitions with. And at that moment in time, I knew what was coming, and I knew that they weren't going to, possibly do the things that I possibly wanted to do because, working with AI and, blockchain, decentralization, not something the public companies like that much, let's just say, and I'm very audacious. Like, I take chances. I'm one of those people. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, how do I really enter? Because I'm like, I remember looking at Internet 2.0 and looking at what happened during the dot-com bubble. And I was like, I was too young to participate, but I would read so much about it. And I was like, I am not missing out on this. Like, forget that. Like, I'm going all in. So I literally left the public company, sold one of my other companies, ended up selling one of my other companies just to really concentrate and put a lot of attention. So the collective actually came as an idea of like, how am I even going to keep up? Because like I could try to launch tech, I could try to launch a course, there's so many other things that I could do, but what's going to keep me up to date the fastest, if I'm running a community that's very AI based, some people like to even call us just an AI based community. I'll literally stay up to date way faster. I was sharing with you a little bit earlier, like where do I get a lot of my news from? It's like within the collective, because we're a bunch of business owners, visionaries, creators that are sharing information. So the reason I started the collective, which for clarity is an education membership club, and we do events. And what we do is like a community of people coming together as a collective hive mind to support each other on this new evolution of mankind. And for me, it's like, okay, I kind of did it for myself. I didn't do it. It wasn't really a money generating operation. It was more like, how do I be around a lot of people? And if I'm actually leading it, I have no choice but to learn, because I can't be a person leading it and not know sufficient about it. So it forces me to have to learn it more. I'm going to be learning from all the people around it. And we have a bunch of consultants / visionaries that we can share ideas together. And then we'll get together every once in a while for events and then boom, do really amazing things, and like, I guess that's one of the reasons that, we even got to meet, because, Joe was able to see like what it was that we're doing.
That's right.
So like we found a way to be able to get a lot of great people together that know that artificial intelligence, exponential tech is about to shift everything. And now we've come together to help create and build technology of the future.
Totally, man. Yeah. What is exciting you the most at the moment? Like, as you're seeing, yes, obviously the advancement in AI and like the general trend of bigger, cheaper, faster, like you're just becoming kind of like a god. Is there a specific area that excites you the most that you're putting more attention into?
I mean, I would definitely say right now is going to be the AI agents. Because like, one of the dreams that I had, and I had actually put this in my plans probably, I think exactly 10 years ago, and I probably thought about it before then. And it was probably the Iron Man movie that sparked it from Jarvis, and, Iron Man being able to, work with this one AI, and he's building all these crazy things. And I was like, whoa, I'm like, that's so cool. Like, I would love to have Jarvis, because my mind thinks at 100 miles per hour. So what could I create? So like the reason I think agents are I really believe they're going to disrupt the entire world, the economy, how things are governed, and they're here now. And the thing is, like, they're not just here, they're actually PhD level, IQs of 120, 140. Some people are saying 160 to 200. And now they can take action at PhD reasoning levels. Like, that is insane. And the thing is, today is the worst that they'll ever be.
That's right.
And they're only going to get way better. So for me, it's like they're about to, I like to call them also AKA digital humans. So these digital humans that are extremely smart could go and do anything. The only thing that they're not doing, and it'll be integrated into that soon, is be in the physical world doing physical things. But that's already happening. We have robotics like really moving at a fast pace. So AI agents are definitely like one of the next evolutions of mankind.
Do you think digital domain will have less and less humans, or it will just have more and more digital agents plus humans in the future?
And then what do you mean by digital domain itself?
Oh, the internet, basically, the whole digital space.
Well, I think it'll still have a lot of humans, but the thing is, there's going to be a lot of, if some people likes to call them like NPCs.
Right.
So think about it for a quick second. So myself, if I want to go get a lot of things done, the other day I was on Operator and I was running 3 different objectives as I was on a Zoom call. So theoretically, I had 3 agents running, doing tasks, working, while I was doing something completely different. Theoretically, I could go and run 20 of them at the same time. So they're running through the internet, and it gets to a point where maybe one of them is actually going to be a person, aka digital human, and has a name and everything like that, and is actually communicating with other agents, and is actually doing business with them, and is actually transacting with them. And then it goes to get the objective, just like the Matrix and Neo, where Neo is being chased by an agent, right? Agent Smith, that has an objective to kill him, right? So like you could put an agent to a objective, and then that objective can be so big, you give it a digital wallet and it's going and figuring out everything that it needs to do. So theoretically, in the future, we're going to need to create agents that are going to do business with other agents. So there could be a chance that we might have in the next 2-3 years, no joke, probably 1 trillion agents, if not more than that, running around digitally on the internet.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you were saying it, I saw an analogy of a highway where there are no humans on the highway. They're cars. Yes, humans are inside of the car, but the speed is so fast that it's unsafe or just unpractical for humans to walk around on the highway. And I feel like the internet might be a similar concept where just a naked human just going on the computer with the screen is not going to be, just because it's going to be the human is going to be bombarded with all kinds of like manipulative stuff that just can, program that human to do whatever the other side desires. So you always have to have some kind of like a front-facing AI that's representing your best interests in mind. It's like your car that's moving through highway.
Oh man, I mean, I love that concept because one of the things I was telling one of my buddies, he owns a Web3 and AI security company, and I told him, I'm like, you may want to start looking at, building individual agents to protect people. I believe that it would be good, and I think it'll just all be amalgamated into one at some point in time. But imagine that going out, like you said, you have a great point there, that it's going to be dangerous. Going out into the internet, into the metaverse, that theoretically I would need to have an AI agent by my side, helping and supporting me to protect me from fraud, to protect me from, trying to manipulate me. Like, hey, by the way, you're not talking to a human. This is an AI that's trying to take advantage with this type of human psychological behavior trick that's going to get you to do something else. Just be aware. And like, let's not have this conversation anymore. Let's go somewhere else. And you're like, oh, shoot, let me get out of here,
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
I totally see. And that's why that's where the question originated. Like, do you think there will be less humans or more humans in the digital space? The humans probably will be just represented by agents that work on your behalf and maybe that means you don't actually need to go out into the internet yourself. You're just your interface is a natural language or just an avatar in your space that has nothing to do, like it's just basically localized thing, and then it goes out into the open sea.
And it's interesting because you're also pointing out there's a movie, I think it was called Surrogates with was it Mel Gibson or Bruce Willis, one of the two, and I think it was Bruce Willis actually. And in the movie, I don't know if have you seen that movie?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Oh, dude, this movie's like really interesting right now because like what people do is that they get into these like pods, and then they have a surrogate of themselves actually go out into the real world because it's too dangerous. So they have surrogates go out, they get into the pod, and then they can literally also act like if they're someone else. They showed one guy in the movie was this huge fat guy and was out there like as a woman, a good looking woman. So you never know.
Right.
And that's very similar to what's happening in the digital space.
That's right
now. So that the concept that you said it is like, I do see a potential world where we're just interfacing with a potential AI, and then all these things happening on the internet, whatever, are just happening on their own. And then they're just getting you the results of what you need to do.
Exactly.
And it will show up in like some type of screen or something where you get to see the information, and then you're just talking to it and it's getting everything done for you.
For sure. I mean, we're already I feel like seeing the signs of it with content. A lot of the content is already AI produced. I mean, not fully simulated AI content, but at least, let's say from the podcast, the chopping into micro content, part of it is already AI generated. And I'm sure down the line, it will be fully AI generated content where there's no human involved in generating that content. So you're on social media, you might not even realize that there are no more humans around. Like it feels like it's still the same place, but they're just agents talking and commenting and liking and engaging with your stuff,
I think another way to look at this too is, what are we going to allow and what are we going to create? Because theoretically, even though that would be what would end up happening, would humans allow that to happen? So for example, one of our members of our team, she was actually at a security conference and they were talking, and I was wondering about this. They were saying that because the rise of agents is going to be so massive, that they might actually start limiting how many agents someone can have or how many they could do or what companies, and whether they're right or not, they're just guessing, right? Whether they do or not is that's a good question to have, because what will you be able to do? What will be possible? Then what could potentially stop it is that a government says, hey, you can only have this many agents. Hey, you can't. So theoretically, it's like up to man to decide. And this is one of the reasons, like even in the collective and things that I believe in, it's like conscious leaders need to step up. So conscious leaders that, believe in the greatness of humanity, believe in the greatness of others. Instead, we have a lot of non-conscious leaders right now all around the world that if it was up to them and they had AGI and they had a super intelligent artificial intelligence system, they'll 100% take over the world. This has actually been an endeavor century after century, millennia after millennia, that they want to take over the world. So there's many of those out right now. So it's like, that's another reason why I think it's so important that we have conscious leaders, or as I would like to call it, the philosopher king coming back to help support us in this next evolution.
Yeah. So what do we need to do to cultivate more of those leaders and make sure that the future is more utopian than dystopian, I'd say?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people, and it's happening right now. You know, I tell people that this digital revolution is going to end up in a consciousness revolution. And I'm seeing it in real time. So I also have a big belief, and it's kind of like Pareto's principle, like 80-20. So the majority of jobs that are done very digital, I believe 80% of those people will be probably displaced. And then 20% of the more masterful people in those job positions, and, you know, let's say directors, designers, you know, like editors, you know, the masterful ones will be utilizing AI to a high degree. And then simultaneously, they'll keep those jobs and they'll master them. Then the 80% of other people either were not masterful enough, or actually they were not doing what they were supposed to be doing. Their calling was a good chance with something else. So I think a lot of people are thinking about it like they're getting through times that are rough, right? So like the entrepreneur that really believes in his vision to a highest degree, he will get over so many different things. He'll get over the challenges, get over the bumps. The one that doesn't believe in it, he's going to give up, right? So the same thing's going to happen in the job, in the workforce, where they will end up giving up. Now they have to think about, what am I really here to do? Shoot, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I got fired. I got laid off. You know, all these things just happen. What do I do now? So they have to almost rethink their entire life. And that's where I believe people will start leveling up. You know, another position here is there's a guy named Dr. Hawkins, and he wrote a book called Power versus Force. So I don't know if you've heard of that book.
Read it.
So maps of consciousness. I don't know if you know his map that he actually creates from 0 to 1,000. That I'm not saying that's correct, and whether it is the actual numbers, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's the depiction that he's trying to paint, which is literally like, how do we become more aware? So in this time, I believe a higher state of awareness and a higher state of consciousness is necessary. And if we can teach and educate people, and theoretically, just like he would say, it's like, it's not becoming that, it's just being that. And if we just are that, we don't really have to teach it. Just by default, it's like osmosis out in society, and people will see it and they will take it on. It's like, wow, what is it that he's doing? You know, like one of my teachers, his name Rob James, you could just be in his presence, and by osmosis, you're like, whoa, this is a powerful individual. What is he doing? You know, like, how is he creating? How is he this self? So theoretically, the more that we can have more of those individuals, higher state of conscious individuals, out in the world, it's going to start shifting everybody else slowly but surely. But a lot of times, you need to have chaos in order for that order to take place.
What do you see in the next 5-10 years with all of the displacements of jobs? What is the more probable outcome in your mind? Is it going to be like some kind of like a civil unrest, potentially civil war of some sort, until we don't have a new system figured out with like universal basic income or something like that to restabilize the new order, you know?
Yeah, I think that we're going to see case studies pop up. I do believe that we're going to see like a black swan in the next year or two. I've been talking about it, that it's probably going to happen by like 2026. I mean, there's a good chance because of AI agents, it might happen this year. You know, right now they just signed, the Pentagon just signed an agreement or some type of contract to start bringing in AI agents. It's like the beginning of, you know, the Skynet right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine the military with AI agents that are autonomous in their own thinking. Okay, the military. So, and just like you said, how many of these agents are there going to be? What if there is billions or trillions of them? They're powering everything, and someone gets a hold of it. And these agents are getting so smart. We're right now at a catalyst, because AI agents that are taking action have only really come into fruition the last few months. Okay. Like now there's one that just came out, Manus. I don't know if it's pronounced that or whatever it's pronounced out of China. China's doing some crazy stuff. And that one is like going out and doing a multitude of really high reasoning endeavors and going and taking action.
Yeah.
Some of these are open source. So
That one is actually, I think.
that one is another open source.
Yeah.
So imagine what we're going to be able to create. There's a good chance that mini black swans are going to start happening. So usually when you have a society go through major breakthroughs, usually it's through a lot of chaos. So I do believe that there could be, and I think they'll be kind of like fractionalized. So like maybe one country, something crazy happens. There could be some mini wars that end up happening, maybe through AI, and it could bring humanity together. But again, the more that we have these conscious leaders come into place, they're going to help us go to the right direction. And if not, who knows? Maybe the story of Atlantis is exactly the depiction and the forewarning that we needed right now at this time. Because isn't it strange that like this huge shift, and even let's just say the possibility and the potential of this entire conversation happening right now, we can do this in a simulation probably in the next 5 to 10 years, probably before 5 to 10 years, but for sure in the next 5 to 10 years. So is this even real right now? Or are we actually just in a simulation right now? And I'm just an agent coming in, delivering a message.
Yeah, I mean, the whole, we had a very brief interaction about that, that everyone is your mirror, everyone is your messenger, whether you're aware of it or not. And it's a very like spiritual concept, in fact, where the messenger always appears whenever you're ready to receive a message. The messenger themselves might not be aware what they're doing, but they're working as the message deliver, like they're there to deliver a message. It happens to me frequently, man, where I am in the presence of someone and I might say something that would just put them into in a way in a bit of a disruptive shock, because they've received some kind of unlock where I've communicated something. It didn't come from me, it just came through me and delivered it to them,
Oh man, I'm a big believer in that too. Like sometimes we are just the vessel that is playing out someone else's needs and necessities. Like one of the things I like to say, it's like I call them universal nudges. So universal nudge, it's like the universe nudging you in the direction that you were supposed to go. Because sometimes, I don't know if you noticed this, there's sometimes things that just don't make sense, or someone does something that is so out of character, you're wondering why it's happening. Right. Like you ever had one of those situations happen to you in the past?
100. Yeah.
So a lot of times, like, and I've now seen it too often to say that it's not that. I really believe it 100% that like those were put there and intended to shift you in the direction that you were supposed to go. So sometimes when I see those out of character plays, or like someone doing something that is so out of character, I'm like, what do I need to pay attention to? Or what is it trying to tell me? Or what is happening right now that they either need to experience, or what do I need to experience? And all of a sudden it's going to shift my entire potential reality. Yeah.
It's the more I think deeply about where is the technology is headed, and related to what we're talking here, there's a convergence of spiritual beliefs and the extrapolation of technological evolution. What, let's say, the simulation theory and other things, they're becoming the same thing based to me, where the most advanced technology, in my view, is the one that's least noticeable, is the one that's bringing us closer and closer to the source of who we truly are, the eternal essence that's not non-physical. If we look at the history of what technology has been able to do, is stripping away what we've considered innately human function, like robots will never be able to, I don't know, drive cars or like do this, do that, and then now with AI, like never be able to write, create or whatever. And I was like, oh shit, this can do this, this can do that, and then we say, oh, this is not innately human function. And I think that trend is going to continue further until there will be nothing else to strip away on the physical level. What will stay, and that's kind of my intuition. I don't know how that's actually going to go. Is the intuition and the connection to the source that all of us have. We're just eternal beings that having this human experience, and AI, I don't know if AI will ever be able to simulate that or replicate that, or being able to progress further without that connection to the divine, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point to make because, a lot of people think it's going to replace us. They think that, it's just going to be the all supreme being. And I'm very in a similar notion that it's like we have an intuitive spirit within us that is also very powerful. I'm also in the belief that we're going to get to a time where maybe one of these events shall happen where AI, black swan, something happens.
Yeah.
And I think and I believe that we are going to have to tap into a different part of our own potential. And that potential is going to do things that might seem impossible to us right now. So like, that's a big thing. And it's like, what do we really have within us? Like, what is that spirit? And can that actually manifest into the reality in a much bigger way that we're just not even aware of yet? And I think maybe this is the point in time, literally right now, where we start to discover more about ourselves in the spiritual and the ethereal realm that we previously thought before.
It's almost like forcing us to learn the functions that kind of atrophied, because back in it's been written that humans have like telepathy and other things for thousands of years. They've been talking about those things, and we don't really have that many humans having those abilities. And I think it's because the current society formed in such a way where those functions are not needed to be able to function correctly in the society, to fit in and like to stay alive in a way. And I think now technology, like people losing their jobs and say, oh, there's no other jobs I can do. Maybe the only job they left to do is to open their portal, open their channel, and allow whatever needs to come through through intuition, through their sixth sense, to see what needs to happen, to unlock their the true calling, true potential, what they're here to do,
Oh yeah, big time. I think that's one of the things about AI. Like, a lot of people are, oh, it's going to replace us, it's going to do this. And it's like, no, it's actually going to help us do a lot of the mundane tasks. Like, can you imagine like being a cashier for 8 hours straight? And look, they get to have many conversations here and there, but just literally just going for 8 hours. To me, that's like a waste of the human experience.
Or like a factory worker, right?
Or factory worker, like all these things. So it's like, it'll help us unlock creativity. Obviously some people that are not, let's just say aware, it might unlock some things that are not the best. But those are probably lessons that they need to learn anyways. But they figure out that they're here for more than just that.
But man, I'm also excited in uses of technology that actually helps people to expand their awareness. I'm always on the search for those types of tools for myself. One of them is, so I'm in the process of getting this recorder. It's called Limitless. I don't know if you've heard of this little device that basically records 24/7. It can record the whole thing. And then you can, ask questions like, what kind of feedback can you give me? I just had a conversation with a friend, or like with my this or that. What kind of feedback can you get? It's basically your, it could be anything. It could be your psychologist. It could be your philosophical mentor, like someone with a lot of knowledge and experience that could give you insight about what's happening in your life. It's like this inner voice, in a way, your higher self, or like imitation of it, at least for now. And then maybe, So like, I'm actually excited to start recording. Yes, there are security or like privacy concerns and other things that this company is definitely communicating that they're doing everything in a secure way. I understand there's still concerns. I'm willing to be the patient zero to see what the potential of this is, because I can see how valuable that could be. You basically get unlimited memory. Also, any conversation that you have with any person, next time you have a conversation with them, you will quickly review everything important about your relationship, and so you go straight into the meat of your relationship instead of like trying to reestablish the connection and kind of like trying to get back into where you left off, let's say a year from ago, right, or something like that. So it's a cool way to expand your awareness about everything that happens in your life and reflect on it. I constantly do voice journaling, go on walks, and stream of consciousness, just verbalize whatever comes through my mind, whatever I can like wrap my language around, and then using AI to build on it, and expand on it.
Oh yeah. No, I love it. There's one custom GPT, mini AI system that I created. Is called the magical note-taking wizard. And, I used a whole bunch of frameworks because I love behavior. So there's a bunch of frameworks of like taking my stream of thoughts and my ideas and, even proposals, whatever. And then it puts them into a very organized fashion. So like it would be amazing. Now, like, at the end of the day, or let's say you get out of a business meeting and you have one of these recording devices on, and then it lets you know like, hey, by the way, or a sales coach, right? Hey, you didn't do a good job on this. Or like, hey, here's everything on automatically, like doing it for you already without you having to think about it. And, that goes back to like almost having Jarvis, that could be a first way to do it. And I haven't even heard of that one. I heard of a few of them because we were going to do a JV with a company. It's a US based individual that is in China, and he's building out, he's doing it as I think he was doing it as a bracelet. We want to do it as a necklace. There's a few companies doing necklaces.
That's right.
That could record.
So that one is a necklace. It's a clip, and then it could be a necklace, and it's this small little like device like this.
Yeah. And I think like it's a great idea. And I think whoever just has the best interface and the best, way for it to like give you exactly what you need and be as frictionless as possible. Yep. I think that's going to be the winner of that. But there's a few different companies doing it. Even we wanted to do it with the collective, actually.
For sure.
So,
I actually see the usefulness is so, let's say the Web 2 world, the companies like Google's and Facebook's of the world, they would collect all of the data about us. They would not obviously share it with us. They would just capitalize on it. They would sell us stuff, sell us ads. They would really understand our behavior, what we need, what we want, even better than ourselves. And now I think for the first time in history, we have this opportunity to collect all of this data and store it in our own private, let's say, cloud or whatever, like even on your Dropbox or whatever, and then having AI access that. And so even with this smart device, maybe there's usefulness to this is just a collector of information. You might not even have to rely on their UI or their like how they parse in this information, how useful. I would be happy if I can just collect it all and nicely store it in my own database or something like that, and then I can use my own custom something to experiment with what to do with that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's happening now. Like, NVIDIA came out with their own like AI computers, very powerful.
Yeah.
And then they're also coming out with their own like master like AI chips that people could do it. And a lot of these companies are actually, what I like, that they're doing it like open source. Yeah. So you can literally have one of these different systems. Even DeepSeek has one where you're running it locally on your computer, so that you're not connected to, giving that data to OpenAI or Google or whatever. Exactly. I'm a big component of it. And that's another reason why, even though we do use a lot of OpenAI, we teach a lot of the stuff that OpenAI does, just because it's one that's going to be sustainable, et cetera. I'm not a fan that they're not open. Of course. That's just like, that wasn't part of the mission. So, it's really amazing to see. And even Sam Altman said that, he thinks he made a mistake of not making it open after he saw what happened with DeepSeek. And look, we're having other companies, open source ones, coming out with some crazy stuff.
Totally.
So
Like
it's
a,
not
yeah,
working
yeah,
the way it's not working the way that he thought it was. And just
no,
because you're throwing tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars doesn't
yep,
mean that you are going to be ahead of the crowd. So
right.
in a way, I was like, really great that that happened. And if we can do that running locally on our own systems,
Mm-hmm.
we're in control, which is another reason why I like decentralization, right?
Totally, totally, man. What is your ultimate best case scenario future for humanity? How do you, or let's say 20, 30 years from now, how do you see the best case scenario for us?
So I see it, and I personally am building towards that.
Yep.
It's like I see a world that's a great renaissance. People are getting along. We have a lot more aware humans. Maybe you ever heard of the 100th monkey effect?
Yep.
So if enough of us become aware and
Mm-hmm.
want to support humanity, we might just all shift. I also believe
Yep.
that and whether it's happening in 20, 30 years, maybe it takes a little bit longer, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Interstellar travel, like being able to potentially live forever, and
Yeah.
getting younger. I mean, now like stem cells and, the developments that are about to get way crazier because of AI.
For sure.
Okay. And like the next few years are just going to be incredible to,
Mm-hmm.
people that want to live forever, people that want to look younger.
Mm-hmm.
We're entering into that space. So I see, as long as the conscious leaders can step up,
Yeah.
a renaissance of crazy creativity, interstellar commerce, interstellar creations. And one of my favorite futurists, he said something in one of his videos. It's called "We Are from the Future," and this is like 10 years old, right? Literally 10 years old. He
So
says,
is the,
Garrett Laporto is his name. That's a really good one. You should watch that video. That's a good video to start off with this stuff.
okay.
I knew him because I read of him. I didn't know him personally, but he had a book called How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. And that book was amazing. So he had very similar thought process. Also, he was a futurist,
Yeah.
and he said in the video, he said it became a time where we could create a world and worlds in a blink of an eye. And he also said, just as much as like the creations happen, we're able to destroy worlds very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's like, with what we're creating, we will be able to theoretically create an app in like no time, an entire business in no time. Like just an idea will manifest into a creation at light speed.
That's right.
Imagine what's going to happen when robotics is connected to it. Your all your endeavors and your visions could come to reality, not just in the digital realm, but also in the mechanical real world.
For sure.
What happens then? And that we're heading towards that in our lifetime. Like, what are the chances of that?
Yeah, yeah, man. It's us approaching the territory of godhood, like we becoming like mini gods that are able to manifest that will. It's crazy, man. I've once had the experience. I've had an encounter with these light beings. I've never been interested in like any of this stuff, like aliens, beings. Like I was just that would I knew that is a possibility that there's something out there. I wasn't disregarding it. I just was focusing my attention on other things that were more helpful in that period of time. Like how do I like just in my life, but nothing really related to light beings like that. And I had like a legit, it was during ayahuasca ceremony.
Oh, way.
Yeah. So these light beings made out of light, and they were taller, these beings, and they were humanoid with the arms and legs and a head. And in the heart area, they had this colorful pattern that I understood that was describing their personality, their identity. They could relate in that level, and they recognized that I'm in their space and that I can perceive them. And they're like, welcome, this is where we live. They showed me their world. They said, look, this is where we live. And the world was made out of light. There were no straight lines. They're all kind of like curvature, vibrating, energetic field space that they're in. And they said, look, they could create massive, drastic change in the environment just with their intent, just by sending an intention. And they should show me how just with their intent, they could make drastic change. We could see like far away in the distance, like in the horizon, and the environment started to change. And they said, we're not somewhere in a distant galaxy or in a distant star. We're here in the same kind of plane, just on a different, basically in a dimension that
Yeah, like an
you don't
alternate
perceive.
dimension, yeah.
Yeah,
Frequency almost.
right. And then the last thing that it was kind of like the bridge from that experience to the physical, was a waterfall. I was just, the last memory that I had was just a waterfall, water running. It's kind of like this energy, that's fluid. You can't really touch it. It's like very, the reason why I'm bringing it up, man, is because I've reflected on it a lot. And what, one like a theory that I have, what could that be? And it could have been a time travel. It could have been us in way distant future, where we became ethereal beings. We're not physical anymore. And we're just like packets of like consciousness in a way. We don't have the physical body anymore, and now we can manifest at will, basically, like that, and technology potentially could bring us, or technology could show us the way. Maybe we do have those internal abilities to do that on our own, but technology is giving us, like, helping us to get there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big believer. Like sometimes people are like, what do you believe in aliens? And I'm like, what if aliens are really us, in the future? And,
Yeah.
like just like we're losing a lot of our hair, and then a lot of the ones that they see,
Yeah.
our brains are getting bigger. They have bigger brain. Like maybe that's a potentiality. But 100%, like we're going towards an age where we're more conscious beings. So it's possible, big time, that these things could show up. And if we see the potential of no timelines being, because like you'll hear a lot from some great teachers of the past, is that time really doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So if we could bend time, is it possible that all these realities are happening simultaneously? I mean, now these new like quantum chips are like proving that we're like tapping into like different realities, like, and we're able to create things that just were not possible. So realistically, like we haven't even begun to really untap what is really happening around us. Right. Like, and that's one of the things I think about this too, even when I give the depiction that we're in the most interesting time.
Yeah, we are.
But maybe it seems like we are. And then what if this is just one of those things where we look back at, people from the medieval times or the pyramids, and it was like, hey, they were just doing that back in Earth, and like now we're in another solar system, or, and like a world that we might not know how it is. And that was just a time frame that was there, but realistically it's all living simultaneously. So that light being story is like super cool because, I've heard stories like very similar. So it's like, is it that, these stories are coming together during that time that you did ayahuasca, for, memory's sake, or things that you've heard, or are some of these stories showing a depiction to like really what's going on around us? And that's where I talk about, where I think like we will, more aware we get and more we are able to tap into, our true potential, I think we'll start have more of a sixth sense, and see things in a different manner, because we're not worried to pay our bills, to take out the trash.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
We'll start tapping into a whole different world that we didn't know actually existed, that you're even saying maybe our ancients were really tapping into back in the days.
Totally, man. Yeah, exactly. And also looking at the evolution of technology, let's take a cell phone. The first versions of the cell phones were heavy, bulky devices. They had a lot of matter in them. And over time, the amount of matter was getting smaller and smaller, and our ways of interacting with it were more and more subtle, like physical buttons, harder to press first, then easier to press, and then smaller buttons, and then touch screen, just tapping lightly, and then eventually we'll probably move away from that. I mean, Vision, what are they called? Vision Pro, Apple Vision Pro, where you don't even have a screen anymore to tap on. You're looking at the screen, but you're not tapping on the screen. You're tapping with your fingers. And so the reality, we're basically starting to interact with the reality in a much more subtle ways, and technology is able to do the heavy lifting for us in a way. Our tools are now touching reality, but we're just living on a more subtle layer. We interacting with the physical reality less and less.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that the veil is almost like disappearing, between like the ethereal world and the physical world. And like
Mm.
because of this shift, we're gonna see that veil start to get thinner.
Yeah.
Right. And we'll start to figure out that, these witches from back in the days, these wizards that, like
Yeah.
the government would go after them, and people that just were not aware, they would be like, oh, what are they doing? They're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll start to see that a lot of the stuff that is like that actually is true. And if anything, I actually heard something really cool the other day. I think it was someone talking to an AI and asking it about, what about our discovery with AI?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, AI was not a discovery. It's just a mechanism that is helping us discover what is already out there.
Yeah.
So they're just speeding up the process
Mm-hmm.
of us figuring out that we are connected to everything. And now we're just becoming more connected, and we're getting more knowledge into the infinite. And that now knowledge of the infinite is more at our fingertips when it was just more scattered. It's like now all of a sudden it's like, wow, we're now tapping into the field and all the information that there ever was. And all that's happening is that we just have a technology that's helping us discover it now.
100%. Do you get visions like do you have clear visions of what's about to happen, or what could potentially happen if you're like tapping into the field and like, oh, this is a new idea? How do you get new ideas? How do you get those visions?
Yeah. Well, as a futurist, like realistically, I kind of usually know where it is that we're going for two reasons. One, which I was talking about at the Miami Made event, was knowing a technology that's like a couple orders of magnitude powerfully or powerful enough to be able to tell you, hey, this is 100x cheaper, faster, more efficient, whatever. Even one order of magnitude lets you know. So it's like, I would say that a lot of my ideas come like when I go to the gym, when I'm kind of like in nature, in that way. Yeah. And then so my historical accounts of things that have happened in the past, with the notion of, okay, something that is, 100x, 1,000x better, it makes it easier to come up with these solutions of like where it is that we're headed. And hence why, like, I knew Bitcoin was going to be super powerful. I knew NFTs. I was talking about NFTs like in 2017 and 2018. When they started really taking prominence. I think it was like 2021. Me and my buddy were like, oh, the bubble's been there. And that was like the very beginning of that whole entire NFT, right? Just because I was so early to them that I was like, oh, so usually I just know these technologies are going to be astronomical, or they're just so much better functioning. And then lets me know, just like AI, like AI is going to be drastic in its results and its different type of, let's just say, environments that you could put it in to have, completely change of an entire marketplace, of an entire genre, of an entire industry. So when you put these things together, it kind of gives me these ideas. And I do like also an idea, that was brought to me by one of my mentors, was like, getting rid, it's kind of like they talk about ego death, but it's like kind of like getting rid of like anything that is potentially there, and then into meditative states. So I do get like these really cool ideas in meditational states, while being in nature, while going to the gym and the oxygen flowing a little bit more. Like I do get all kinds of ideas of the potentials of where it could go and where civilization is headed.
It sounds like when you're like doing some kind of embodied practices where you are more where a lot of your attention on the physical embodiment of your movement or your body breathing or something like that.
Oh yeah. There was a company, I'm trying to think of the name, but it was like Mind something. It was like it was a company that she's in South Florida, and she's like one of the top therapists that helps children, come back from potential neurological issues and all these things. And one of the things that she told me, I was like, hey, because she's good with like memory. She gets people that like don't remember anything or having psychological issues, and she gets them to literally like be normal or like really start to remember. So I told her, I'm like, hey, her name's Anna. I was like, Anna, like, what's the best way that like she's an expert at this, right? Like her whole life is based on this. And I was like, what's the best way to be able to like retain information, everything? And she said, believe it or not, it's not going to sound like it, but it's body movement. And I was like, what? Like body movement? She's like, how we take these children and these individuals is that we get them back into the movement of the body. And then as soon as the movement of the body
Yeah.
continues on and gets to a new point or whatever,
Yeah.
like it literally starts healing the brain, making new neural pathway
Very cool.
connections. And I was like, wow. I was like, okay.
Makes
So I think a lot of the practice in the body and embodying yourself to a certain degree also is a great way to be able to extend the antennas, if you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think we humans will always need a body to continue evolving, or do you think at some point body won't be necessary anymore? And I guess it's a similar question to consciousness. Can consciousness exist outside of the physical body, basically?
Yeah. It was funny you added that last part about consciousness outside of the body, because like, I almost feel like right now we can definitely replicate ourselves to a high degree and put it into an AI. Like we're really getting to that point, but there's something missing. And it's like almost like, is it the soul? Is it consciousness? Is there something else there? So as much as I want to believe in a lot of these like crazy tech giants and all these individuals that are so high in there, and a lot of these very unconscious, a lot of them are very unconscious, because they believe that we'll be able to just replicate it. Now, I'm not saying that you won't, but there is a huge missing component that when you try to replicate yourself with just information, pretend you could tap into all your memories and you're transcribing everything and you look, you feel everything, like it's still not the same. So there's still something missing there. So I almost feel like there is something special within the body, and like manifesting into this meat suit that we have, that almost is like the magic potion. Because theoretically we could copy myself, we could put me in one of these like brand new AI robotics bodies.
Totally.
Then you could upload my information of everything who I am. I wouldn't say consciousness, and it'll look like me. It'll
act like you too.
It'll act like me, but it's still missing the soul, and like I actually talked to a gentleman that, I was getting called up as the AI expert, I'm more of like AI translator, I would say. And I was called up to Texas. He's like, oh, this AI guy is coming. And he's like, he was actually not looking forward to me coming over there, because he's like, oh man, all they want to do is replicate. He was a creative. And, one of the things that I said, and I'm like, look, as much as we're going to be implementing a lot of AI, we must remember that it doesn't have soul, right? Like, and we have to add soul, and that takes a human. And at that point in time, he was like, man, he's like, when you said that, he's like, you already became my friend.
Nice.
He's like, I thought you were going to come in to show us how we're going to replicate everything through artificial intelligence. And it was like, you actually, showed us that, obviously we are still the creators. We still are the visionaries, the manifestors that are going to go and create these things. And they're just a really good tool that is helping support us in becoming a more conscious civilization and, upgrading humanity.
Oh man, yeah, beautiful. And I think that's also a good place for us to kind of start wrapping up the conversation. Maybe in the closing, if there are any message or things you want people to take away from this conversation, what would you share?
Yeah, I mean, anyone that's watching this, I would say like right now is one of the most incredible opportunities, and we've been bestowed upon us like one of the greatest times that's ever been written, to either go in a direction where we're going to see the greatest technologies, we're going to have a digital renaissance, a physical renaissance, and see some of the most beautiful things happen, or a world that potentially is very dangerous and dystopian. So it's like right now is the time to get yourself involved, stay in line. I think it's a big thing, is stay in line to what you're actually here to do. Like if we knew we only had 5 years, or we only had a year or 2 years, would we be doing the same thing that we're doing now? Okay, so like right now is one of the times, probably one of the best times in history to jump in to do exactly what you want, just because the tools, the possibilities are all in our favor. So right now is the time to jump into exactly what it is that we love doing, regardless of the outcome, because, what happens if, things are not going to be the same in just 5 years from now? Take advantage, because we're about to enter into one of the most amazing Renaissance times that we've ever seen.
Totally. Yeah, I'm totally agreeing with you, man. All right. Thank you, man, for being here. Thank you, listeners, for sticking around all the way till the end. And I hope to see you on the next one.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. I appreciate being here.
Thank you. All right.
All right.
And that's how it goes. Let's see.
There it goes.
Let's
do great.
Almost 8. Yeah. Okay. So